Hey team, this is Grant Collins, and welcome to the Basement Philanthropy Podcast, a podcast for micro-philanthropists who do not want to wait until they are retired to create good with their money, regardless of the amount. On this episode, we're going to be walking through the question, what in the world is basement philanthropy? So let's get started. It's crazy for me to be here in my basement right now recording the first episode of the Basement Philanthropy Podcast. It's really been a long time coming, and I'm stoked out of my mind that you are here and are interested in the answer to the question, what is basement philanthropy? And over the last 6 months, I have been looking to answer that question myself. And one of the ways that I have done that is through conversations with my friends and family about it. And I have recorded a lot of those conversations for my own use in creating this thing that is called basement philanthropy. And as I was thinking about the rawest, most authentic way that I could answer this question, stitching together a bunch of those conversations really came to mind as a way to be able to do that. And so that's what I've done. So here is the answer to that question. What is basement philanthropy? Over 12 minutes of condensed conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you on the other side.
So basically, it's this concept of philanthropy has been reserved so much for like nations and billionaires and those type of things that it feels so unreachable. Like even saying philanthropy is like, oh, yeah, it's cool or whatever. But it's just not that way. Individual donors matter so much in philanthropy. And like even from a higher perspective, if you want to make the world a better place, help your neighbor be a better person and the world's going to be a better place, right? So that's the type of interaction I'm interested in, because outsourcing our philanthropy to charities is getting in the way of us actually experiencing what philanthropy is.
So
therefore,
rather than donating to a cause, we are the cause. We do something.
Because you actually are close to the cause, you understand the impact, and then my theory is that's going to create a flywheel effect that will say, oh man, I want to get more money. Instead of just being like, oh, pat myself on the back, I donated to the Red Cross. It's like, oh, I did this thing for my neighbor that they really needed. Oh, I want to do that again because I saw how big of an impact that made. I didn't just see a billboard and was like, oh yeah, it was a cool billboard. I did that. Basement philanthropy as an idea came about by me thinking about my experience in wanting to give back. Like I've always wanted to give back. I've always wanted to do that with money. And I don't know exactly where all that comes from. It'd be fun to kind of dig into that one day, but it's always been there for me as long as I can remember. And from that, I started to implement little projects and philanthropy in my life based off of the money that I was making. So I would cut like a percentage of that money and I would put it towards something. And that then led me to, oh my gosh, like I don't have to wait until I'm 16 retired to be involved with philanthropy. And in fact, it's way better for me to be involved earlier so that I can gain experience, so that when I have more resources or money or influence or whatever, I can actually use it in a way that's useful instead of just like throwing money at something.
Yeah, because you're going to already have been doing it, just you're going to do it on a bigger scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as I started getting involved in this like small giving, I realized how big of a skill set philanthropy is, even on a small scale. Like, and there were some pretty like negative situations that happened to me because of this. Like I tried to help a couple friends with like groceries or bills, and it wasn't that like, it was just a mess. Like I almost like lost friendships, and I didn't even give them money. It was just like talking to them about this concept that, and so I just realized like, holy crap, like I'm really bad at philanthropy.
And so all of the millennials, including myself, that feel like we're going to be able to make a big impact with all this money is a bunch of bullcrap. Like we're not going to be able to do that because we just don't know enough about giving, and so we're just going to have to outsource all of that giving.
Okay.
So I want to create an ability for people to get involved in building a skill set so that when they get more money or get more involved in the community, they can actually have the skill to be able to be effective there.
The next piece was that I realized that my impact would be relatively small by myself. So even if I was a millionaire and I built this big company and I sold it and I had all this money, if I could get 1,000 people to do small things, it was already going to be exponentially bigger than whatever I could do by myself.
Yeah.
And not only is it going to be bigger, but it'll be able to impact so many more lives than just if I were to go out and do something.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about the exponential impact. Yeah. And so that's when I saw, there's a void here of content and not necessarily desire. There's a lot of people that want to do something. They want to give back. They know that money isn't everything. And so that's when I said, oh yeah, I enjoy making content. I like video. I like audio.
Yeah.
I like that type of thing. And it makes me excited and happy. And I'm not nervous about it. It wasn't just like me. It was more like a millennial Gen Z type of feeling, to give back and to do something. But a lot of it is mostly idealism and not a lot of action behind the idealism. And so I thought how could I create something that would influence individuals to start giving now so that they could learn the skill set and whatever that wealth that they generated, that would then be used for greater good in the future. Often the thing that gets in people's way is that they don't know how to go through the process. They don't know where to start, all of that. So what if I made content that displayed how I was doing that and how other people were doing exactly. And how can I display that in a way that's somebody can digest it and be able to say, oh yeah, I could do this. I could see myself in that. And the whole basement term.
Yeah, where did you come up with this? I'm that's amazing. I love it. Yeah. I love the vibe. Where did it hit you? In the shower, surely. The shower thought.
No, it's a good question. So I love how basement makes it feel very reachable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's almost a play on
very ground.
Yeah, it's a play on garage, garage band or all the tech companies that started in a garage.
Yeah.
It's just this very relatable feeling. And then philanthropy is a word that is very out there in terms of not a lot of people know what it means. Yeah. It's not an average word. Mm-hmm. You hear about philanthropy, but nobody's oh yeah, I'm going to be a philanthropist.
Yeah.
There are people that make a lot of money and you're oh, that's a philanthropist or that's a philanthropy organization or a charity. Mm-hmm. But they feel very unreachable.
Yeah.
And giving or even charity, it's already defined, or service. Those words, they don't really work because people already have a definition in their mind of what service is or what giving is or what even charity is.
Yeah.
But most people don't have a definition of philanthropy.
Yeah.
And so I can use those words to say, hey, philanthropy is like giving, but... Or, hey, philanthropy is like service, and I can bridge those elements and bring you into something that I can better define.
So the first thing is, okay, what is a micro-philanthropist? I'm defining as somebody that puts aside money, sees a cause, implements money or resources to help that cause, and then measures the outcome.
And what I would love to do, and this is an idea that I had a couple months ago, is what if I helped people understand that their views and spreading this type of information was just as much a part of philanthropy as their giving? Their views are worth money, and that money
can be plugged into like other projects or what I'm doing to be able to create more awareness. And so even if someone just watches my videos or listens to my podcast, they are in some small way getting involved and producing resources and income that can be used to do more of that.
Like our own micro actions actually have a big effect.
Yeah.
Especially when paired with a lot of other people who are doing micro actions.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's like a big reason why I'm working on this like basement philanthropy thing, is because I realized that every dollar that is given outside of me is an exponential gain of giving and impact. The more people that get involved, the more people that see themselves as mattering, the more people that are putting aside money on a monthly basis to be able to give, like that compounds way faster than anything that I could do of myself. And so that's my goal. And that's why the main goal of basement philanthropy is not initially to raise a bunch of money. Like the main goal is to produce a bunch of content that allows people to start acting for themselves in conjunction or in chorus with each other to be able to make that impact so much broader than anything that I could do by raising money for a single cause.
So what I had to realize was I've got to put parameters around this, or else I'm never going to make any progress. I'm just going to keep on like dreaming up. Like I haven't even told you half of what I want to do with basement philanthropy. Like there's like an hour's more worth of stuff that I'm like, oh, I could do this. Oh yeah. And it all fits. It's all beautiful, but it's like a lot of stuff. And I don't have the resources to do that right now. Like I'm doing this part-time.
We're starting where we're at with what we have.
Exactly.
With what we know. Yeah.
And so I realized, okay, what do I want? Like, what is the first step for me? And I realized that first step was getting other people involved with philanthropy. Mm-hmm. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to, in 2022, my only goal for basement philanthropy right now is I'm going to get 30 people to have their first experience with micro-philanthropy.
Amazing.
That's it.
Totally doable.
And how am I going to do that? I'm going to build a course.
Yeah.
And that course is going to represent, if someone goes through that course and does it, check one person involved with micro-philanthropy.
Like, how do you see people getting that, like, more personal connection rather than outsourcing to, like, organizations or things like that? How do you see them actually finding...
So that's like, a part of the...
Being able to say, yeah, that friend of mine, I'm actually going to help them.
Yeah, so that's a part of the whole, like, course, quote unquote.
Yeah. Is,
like, okay, how much money are you going to give? Okay, $30. Okay, where are you going to give that? And it's got to... I'm, like, making it so it has to be, like, not a donation somewhere. And, like, it could be, but I'm really, like, pushing people to do something. And, it's super fun to be in that conversation with people because most people will have this like, oh, I don't know anybody or I can't do anything. And then like we just talk for like 5 minutes and they've got like 60 things. Like, it's so fast.
Right, philanthropy means that I can spend my $1, right? Because everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have their own, right? I can spend my $1 and do some good and fill that goodness back.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. So I started seeing that, and then I love all these podcasts that are like documentary.
Yeah, documentary.
Right.
Style.
So there's a couple in particular I really like. One of them's called Startup, the other one's called Founders Journal, and they're just these podcasts that document somebody's learning in a specific field. Mm-hmm. And it's a way to make content before you have a ton of experience. You're
learning as you go and other people are learning through that.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's where the first iteration of the podcast came from, which is, well, I have all these thoughts and I'm working through all these things. What if I then took that and just built it doing like a 15-minute weekly podcast that I would just break down what's happening. And that's going to be the Basement Philanthropy Podcast.
Good stuff. Good stuff. To wrap up this episode, I simply want to put out a huge thank you to everyone who's been so supportive of me starting and growing Basement Philanthropy. I truly cannot do it without you, the listener, and without those who have known about and supported Basement Philanthropy since before it was a thing. I'm thrilled to be able to be involved in this space. There's truly such a big impact that can happen when ordinary people like you and I see ourselves as mattering and not having the barriers of retirement or buckets of money standing in the way of our individual impact. That's a wrap for me. Let's go create some good with the money in our pockets together. Talk soon.